got legacy stuff, legacy ideas. They got some groups of people that aren't so agile. They haven't bought into they haven't drunk the Agile Kool-Aid yet. Very difficult to work with. What do you do when you got your data group that absolutely insists on that detailed, logical data model up front at the beginning of the project, regardless of the fact that there's no evidence showing that that's a good idea? That's what they do because that's what they know, because they've got to justify their existence, right? They have to play politics. Well, okay, you're going to suck it up and you're going to let them go off. You're never going to get them away from that, so you're going to have to let them go off and produce all that nonsense and pretend to care. Go to their review meetings and say, oh yeah, good job, you're a real winner, yeah. Go collect some metadata. Yeah, because that's useful. And then move on, right? Okay, so anyways, bad news. It's not this big group hug situation that we like to talk about. What happens if you're organizationally distributed? You got some consultants in there. You've got multiple divisions or multiple organizations that are trying to partner. That makes it a little more difficult. What happens if you want to get good at governance? We're actually very bad at governance, but what happens if you want to be good at it? I got a few governance ideas coming up in a couple minutes. What happens if you got a large team? What happens if your application's complex? And you get, particularly if you got some nasty legacy stuff kicked that customer and the product owner. We know that there's a wide range, and on any reasonable project, there's a wide range of stakeholders. And it's not just, we love to talk about the end users, but it's not just the end users. It's not just the gold owners. It's also the enterprise architects. It's also the support folks, the operations folks. And even if it was just the end users, they got different priorities, right? The end users don't all have the same vision. They're not all robots. They're not clones of each other. They're different people with different priorities. You're going to have to figure this stuff out, right? So the person, the product owner, and the on-site customer, they've got a nasty job. They have to represent this wide range of people. They're going to have to do some business analysis type stuff. They're going to have to negotiate. They're going to have to do some modeling. They're going to have to, share their current status. They're going to have to do demos. There's a lot of stuff that's going on for this product owner. They're obviously they're a bottleneck, right? They're a risk. They're a single point of failure. What happens if the product owner halfway through the project gets another job somewhere else, or wins the lottery and leaves the company? You got a serious problem now, right? So you need multiple people in that role that should be swapping out. What happens if you're distributed? What happens if you're a big team and you're distributed around the world? Can this product owner work 24/7? Probably not, right? They're human. So, you're going to have multiple stakeholders, multiple product owners, multiple on-site customers, and that's okay. But we need to recognize this. We can do database testing. Remember, it's a $600 billion a year problem. We might want to start testing. This is a huge blind spot for the data community right now. They're the only group of people in IT that talk about testing, but also don't talk about testing. There's no database testing books out there. I own a shelf of data quality books. I need a light, but I own a shelf of data quality books. Only one of them has the word test in it, and it's not within the scope of database testing. They're talking about testing your hypothesis because you're doing research, right? It's phenomenal how this is such a blind spot in that community. The Agile guys love to talk about development, love to talk about construction. Yeah, it's the sexy stuff, right? Let's talk about TDD and refactoring and continuous integration. Yeah, cool stuff. They never talk about kicking a project off, which is a lot of boring work, right? You got to get the team, get your money, do a little bit of modeling, all this non-sexy stuff. They never talk about putting software into production. Well, they talk about it, but they never talk about the details, right? And we know that transitioning software to production is not so sexy, a lot of grunt work, not a lot of fun, but it's got to be done because people like it when you actually deliver. So, production. If you've ever done operations and support, you know it's hard, right? Very complex. We need to appreciate that. So, we need to start looking at the full life cycle. So and actually step back and look at the history Rock socialized many of the concepts that the Agile community takes for granted, like delivering working software on a regular basis, iterations. Like we take that for granted, but if you remember in the mid-90s, that was rocket science. There was a lot of companies that were really struggling with it. A lot of companies today struggling with that, let alone 10 years ago. And RUP is risk-driven, so it brings a lot of the concepts in that we really don't see in some of the processes. So the inception and elaboration phase are all about driving risk out of your project. So inception is all about driving business risk out. Elaboration is all about driving technical risk out. So during the elaboration phase, you build a working end-to-end skeleton of your system, which addresses the major technical requirements. So if I saw a team a few months ago where they had to work on a system that processed 3,000 transactions a second, which is a fairly nasty requirement. So you'd want to make sure that your architecture can actually do that at the very beginning of the project. Because I don't want to be 9 months into the project and have a bunch of really cool functionality delivered, and yet then I finally pull that that 3,000 transactions a second requirement off the stack and go, uh-oh, this isn't going to work on the Commodore 64 architecture I put together for the last 9 months, right? So you need to think about this. So let's drive the risk out right away by developing working software, yada, yada, yada. So we can be smart about the way we're doing things. I'm currently writing a blog on DeveloperWorks, and a lot of the topics that I'm blogging on is actually how to scale Agile and bringing some of the good practices out of RUP and saying, here you can do this, and here's some really good ideas, which are currently being reinvented, by the way, by the Agile community. I'm sure you've seen projects in your organization where the team just reported good status all the way through, right? It was green, 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 suddenly red. Well, how could that possibly be, right? Really, how could that be? Like, did the team get hit by a meteor? Like, these are questions you've got to start asking. Because more than likely, it was green, yellow, 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 red, 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 and they finally got to the point where they realized they couldn't hide it anymore, so they declare red, right? Well, how many times do you have to get burned like that? Or with status reports, when the status is going up the food chain. I was on a project a few years ago, complete disaster. I was surprised that we weren't burning the building down. Things were so bad. And in our status reports every week, we're reporting, the world's going to come, technology doesn't work, it's never going to work, world's coming to an end, we need some help, could somebody please make some decisions and get us away from this really bad technology? So the project manager was, realized that he couldn't report that, so he was, massaging the reports to show that there were some technology challenges, but things were moving along, which is still true. His manager couldn't possibly report that, so he started reporting that we were enjoying the challenges that we were facing, and that's what was getting thrown to the CIO. So one day I was out, I was at a party, and I bumped into the CIO, and I started talking with her, and she says, "Yeah, I hear the project's going really well, and things are going fine for you." What planet are you on? This is a total disaster. You're burning through, $50,000 a week on this, and we're shocked that nobody's, that you don't think this is important enough to actually come down and help us and make some few basic decisions, like, killing some of the data people, and which was actually part of the eventual solution. Well, not killing them, but dealing with them harshly. And and this is the thing, because what was happening, this is called the green shift anti-pattern, right? So, it's just like blue shifting in physics or red shifting in physics. So the higher up the food chain that a status report goes, the greater the chance that the status improves with green shifts over time. So anyway, so the point here is that you can do portfolio management in the Agile world. You should be doing portfolio management, and you've got a significantly better clue of what's going on there.